Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to install some cab lights on my 2016 F-350. This truck was spec'd without those lights up there. I didn't order it. It was a year-old carryover that I bought off the lot, so if I would have ordered it, I would have got some lights up there. But fortunately, I have access to this 2016, which has the lights installed from the factory, so I can use it for correct placement, spacing, all that. So come around to the inside of the truck, we'll get out of this wind, and I'll show you what the parts look like. And here's everything you should need to do this. Now, I'm going with Ford factory parts. These cab lights are just a regular filament style bulb. They are not LED. And guys, I'm not going to get into the whole debate about the old style filament bulbs versus LEDs. I know LEDs are vastly superior. They take much less current, last longer, all that. But for all intents and purposes, what I'm going to do with this, my truck, I'm using Ford parts. So give you a quick rundown of what all we have. Part number for the lights, 6C3Z15442-A. You need 5 of them. And like I said, I was a dealer employee, so I get a little bit of a break on cost, but I'll just kind of break it down for you here. First item on the list, they retail for $38.37 a piece. I can get them for $28.78 each. So that was $143.90 for just the 5 lights. You guys, if you paid retail, figure on at least another $50 on top of that. I also got the wiring harness that will plug in behind the dash and go up across the front of the headliner for all that crap up there too. That harness is a GC3Z15A404S. And I don't know that I'm going to need this. I checked the parts computer and the wiring diagram book at work. It doesn't specify that I need this harness for the lights, but I went ahead and grabbed one anyway, just in case the existing harness that's up in the headliner does not have the connectors for the lights. So better to have it and not need it. Anyway, if you do need that harness, that retails for $43.12. I got it for $32.34. Again, a little bit of a dealership employee break. And to round it out, here are the nuts for retaining the lights to the top of the cab. It's a N6-21903-S441. They're just a little 6mm thread nut, so I figured I'd grab plenty of those, get me by. And it's just stupid what those cost, $2.59 a piece. But guys, I'll fall on that sword for you. Gives you a pretty good idea of what the cost of the entire kit is. So grand total for this, $217.05. And like I said, that's a little bit cheaper than what retail would be. But in case you are thinking about doing all Ford parts, it kind of gives you an idea of what you're going to pay. Now I know, like I said, again, you can get some aftermarket LEDs for a fraction of that price. I just wanted to have all the Ford parts and make sure I could utilize all the existing Ford wiring so that when you open the door or click your your lock or unlock button on the key fob, I can be able to plug all those lights right into the body control module, and they will all illuminate with the parking lights and the mirror lights, just like it came from the factory that way. So we'll probably end up putting the truck inside the garage for most of this. It is Minnesota. It's winter out here all the time. So we'll get going on here. First things first, we need to gain access to the inside and probably get that headliner pulled down a little bit. So to follow the Ford Workshop manual procedure for this, step number 1 is always disconnect the battery. Next, we'll remove the visors. A T20 Torx bit will take the screws out on this end here. Once those are out, unclip it, take it down. Repeat for the passenger side. Now we'll do the same thing for the clips for the visors. T20 Torx head screw. Remove the screw, take it down, repeat for the other side. Now we can take down the overhead console. So I start by opening both the doors, and this just snaps in. There's going to be 4 snaps, one here, and then one there and one there, kind of midway. And it's going to look like I'm going to fumble with this for a while, but they're really, really in there. So you can get your finger under the edge, just pull down, just like that. It releases these 4 snaps. You disconnect the connector up here at the front. That's out of the way. Next, the A-pillar trim panels with the grab handles have to come down, and to get at the screws, you have to open these little covers. To do that, just take a screwdriver. Do not pry under this end. Go under this end right here. That's where the little snap is. Just get under it, pop it loose, You can see this end up here has this little tail that holds the cover on. And using a 7mm socket, you can loosen the bolts that hold the trim panel to the A-pillar. The bolts will remain captured inside the panel. And you can just pivot trim panel away and remove it. And here's where you see why we're disconnecting the battery before we start doing anything. Here's one of the side curtain airbags, so it just helps to have all the power dead to everything if you're going to be working in the vicinity of these. So repeat this for the other side. Now pull the weather strip down. Next, remove the trim cover that goes over the top of the bolt for the shoulder belt D-ring. It just pulls straight out. And now a T50 Torx will remove the bolt to detach the D-ring. Now that the D-ring is out of the way, we'll just pull out on the upper portion of the lower B-pillar trim panel and disengage the clips, just like that. Next, using a small screwdriver, carefully pry these two round covers out of the trim panel so that you can access the bolts that hold the upper B-pillar trim panel on. And once again, a 7mm socket will remove these bolts. And to remove the panel, pull out at the top, disengage two clips, pull out at the bottom, disengage a clip, and the upper B-pillar trim panel can be removed. Okay guys, after all those same steps have been carried out on the passenger side B-pillar trim panel, you can now drop the headliner enough to have clearance enough to do the work at the front without worrying about creasing it or damaging it further back. Okay, now that I've got the headliner pulled down at the front, I've had a good look at the harness where it runs through the upper portion of the cab here, and there are no takeouts for cab lights. So I am going to have to completely remove this upper harness and substitute it for the one that I bought. I'm also going to take this little housing off here. It's just two Phillips head screws up at the front, and I can get that right out of my way. It's going to make life a little bit easier. So this harness plugs into quite a few things, both your side curtain airbags on both sides, plugs into the little receiver pod for the satellite radio, and a few other components. So I'm going to get to work on getting this harness removed from the upper portion of the cab right here now, and then we'll concentrate on the next step when I'm done with that. Okay, so I want to update you on the progress. I got the harness stripped from all the way across the upper portion of the cab, and then also unclipped the kind of protector body here where it went down the A-pillar behind the side curtain airbag, and it goes down behind the dash right down through here, and the connector is down there on the floor. Just give me a second to reposition the light. I'll give you a better view of where that's at. We'll get everything disconnected down there. Okay guys, going under the dash now. The lighting is going to be horrible down here, so bear with me. I apologize. Here's your parking brake. And we got the brake pedal right here. Okay. Look right up here, this little yellow connector near the brake pedal bracket. That's part of the harness that we're changing. So you have to disconnect that. And now for the hard to reach part, right back here, where you see this this white tag right here, that's the other end of our cab harness. So disconnect the gray connector. Now hopefully we can pull all this up through. There's the gray connector. There's the yellow one. Got it out. Okay, so I have both harnesses out here on the bench. This is the one that I just took out of the truck. Here's the new one I bought to go with the lights. So of course the new one has 5 extra connectors in it for those lights. Look at the main difference here. Get into this gray connector from the old one. This is the 10-pin one that we disconnected under the dash. You can see we have an open cavity up here and another open one right there. Compare that with the new one. You can see we have all 10 cavities have a wire and a pin in them. This yellow-green right here is for, that's the power for your lights. This black-white one here is ground for the lights. And of course the vehicle harness is already pre-wired to utilize all 10 of these pins in this harness. So it's kind of a plug-and-play deal. Get this thing routed back under the dash, plug this these connectors in on this end, route it back up the A-pillar and across the top, and then you're pretty much wired for the lights. So I'm going to go do that now. You guys don't need to watch me do that. When I'm finished with this, we'll pick up again with the next step. All right, that actually didn't go too bad. Went pretty well. I got everything secured down the A-pillar again, routed down through the dash and plugged back in down there, and then routed the entire harness all the way across the front of the cab. Got all the components plugged back in, and you can see we have the little 2-pin connectors sticking out, 5 of them all the way across for those cab lights. So next step now is to start determining the placement of the lights so that I can get ready to drill. Okay guys, as you can see, I've done a lot of work on top of the truck cab here. I've got the location for all 5 lights already laid out. And what I did was just I used that other 2016 that I have here that had these lights installed from the factory, and just did all the measurements according to that, transferred them to this, and it turned out just perfect. So I'll just mention, in years past, you could buy a template right from Ford Motor Company that you could roll out across the top of your cab. It had all these locations pre-marked. You could do your center punches, start drilling your holes. It was that easy. They don't even offer those templates for these trucks anymore, so you pretty much have to measure each one individually. So here's how I did it. I started off by making a paper template that matches the base of the light socket and has the appropriate sized holes in it for the 2 mounting studs and for the center connector to pass through. And your 2 mounting holes are going to need to be 1/4 inch. Your center hole for the connector is going to need to be 1 inch right on the dot. So using these little paper templates, then what I did was use the measurements from that other 2016 to determine the spacing for all the lights to make them all match. So the first one, you start in from the very edge of the cab here, and you measure 8 3/8 inches across to the center line of your first light. You also need to have it spaced 3.5 inches back from the top, from the upper edge of the windshield weather strip to the leading edge of the light base. So that's how you place your first one. Moving on to the second one, again we measure from the center line of the first light, and we come over 12 3/4 inches to the center line of your second light, and again 3.5 inches up from the top of that weather strip. Measuring over to the third light now, again we'll go off the center line of the second light, come over 7 7/8 inches to the center line of the middle light. Just continue that same spacing sequence on out for the other 2 lights, and everything's going to come out right where you want it to be. Okay, I'm getting ready to drill the 2 1/4 inch holes right now. Once you get a pilot hole started, put a little piece of tape over there. It's going to help to protect your paint from those metal filings that are coming off the bit, that you won't have any kind of circular scratches that way. Another good idea, put some tape on your bit. I'm using a step bit here to do the 1/4 inch. I'll be using one to do the 1 inch hole too. Put a little piece of tape on here to act kind of as a visual depth stop. You don't over drill quite so easy that way. Another quick tip too, it helps to throw a clean shop towel up on top of the headliner, and also if you have one of these small magnetic parts trays, they collect a lot of your filings. Makes for a lot less cleanup later. Okay, so I'll update you on the progress. We've got all the holes drilled all the way across the cab, and I'm just finishing up applying the undercoating, the rust inhibitor over the bare metal here. So, and I don't even get too fussy under these cab lights. It's all going to be hidden anyway, so if I get a little bit on the paint, no big deal. Doesn't bother me at all. I just want to get all that bare metal covered. Now that the undercoating's finished, you can just drop the cab lights into the holes that I drilled. And it's nice because they have the gasket already built into the bottom. And then working from the inside, tighten down the nuts just snug and plug the connectors in. And now I can put the headliner back up in the reverse order of disassembly. And with that, I'm right back where I started, reconnecting the battery. Let's go test everything for proper function. Okay, so here I go. I'm just going to hit the unlock button on the key fob, and all the running lights should come on. And they do. That's a good sign. All the lights up top look good. Everything's illuminated, mirror lights, cab lights, running lights down on the front. Looking pretty good so far. Now, just to make sure everything was put back correctly, we'll go in here and see how all the instrument cluster lights prove out. Close the door for you. Just do a quick startup. We're watching that one mainly. Yep, airbag light went out. Everything else looks good. We want to make sure that airbag light proved out since we had these side curtains disconnected at one point. So just turn some outside running lights on again. We'll have one last look. So that's the complete step-by-step installation process for all Ford factory parts to put cab lights up on a 2016 F-350 XLT. Guys, as always, I thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, leave comments down below. And I'm not done putting lights on this yet. Just stay tuned. Hope to catch you next time, guys.